Good morning, everyone. While we're still in the state of felt shift, I would like to thank you, Dario, for the kind introduction and for HTC for allowing us to speak today. Our practice, Kaunitz Young Architecture, would like to acknowledge and recognize the traditional people's ongoing connection to the land, seas, cultures, and communities. We honor their elders and intergenerational leadership. The architecture we design occupies country and becomes a part of it. We feel the weight of this responsibility and are committed to a culturally competent process and outcome that aims to heal country and support communities, protocols, and practices. Please be made aware that in this presentation there might be images of deceased people, even though every effort has been made to avoid this. So David and I have founded our practice to drive positive social change. And like many ethnic Australians, both Kim and I grew up in two worlds and came from. As a result, we have a strong sense and desire to bridge different worlds. And over time, that has taken us to work with more than 40 Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island communities and many more in the Pacific. And we've developed a methodology that maximizes community participation to empower communities for their self-determination, to stay in their homelands, strengthen the continuation of their culture, and to build healthier and more resilient communities for the future. So our approach is based around these principles. One is respect, listen, and collaborate. The foundation of process is mutual respect with humility in approach. And we take time to listen to all voices, co-design and co-construct as much as we could. We act local and think long term. So we learn from their tradition, their art and culture, and we use material to overcome logistic issues and to minimize carbon footprints. And where possible, we provide opportunities to give livelihoods and child funding back to the community. And then we innovate and evolve because change takes time. We challenge the status quo to bring something new to each project and gradually shift and lift the game in the sector over time. So those principles have enabled an innovative aged care design to emerge in Nhulunbuy, the Northern Territory. For over 7 years, our team have been quietly working with a wide spectrum of collaborators, including aged care residents, prospective ones, families, elders, community leaders, Aboriginal corporation, government operators, and experts to develop a new and more culturally appropriate approach to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders aged care. So the project, Ujuala Jiwa, translates roughly to Little Heaven. As the cultural advisor Robin said, is a place of harmony and comfort, a home where clients can spend their final time on earth before heading to what she described as a big heaven. So this flexible aged care facility is a 32-bed aged care with 1 palliative care bed and 4-chair dialysis unit, located in Nhulunbuy on Yolngu country in northeast Arnhem Land. East Arnhem Land covers an area of some 97,000 kilometres square with a population of 16,000 people, which 12,000 are Yolngu. Yolngu people represent some of the most traditional Aboriginal people in Australia who are highly connected to country and culture with a thriving language. They're made up of 16 clans, 8 communities and councils' homelands. So what you see on the bottom right image are the homelands that are spread over a huge area. And these homelands could consist of a family or an extended family or a few families. And it is in this context that this residential aged care project, the very first aged care in East Arnhem Land, was designed in deep collaboration with prospective residents and Yolngu elders. And this is a project that the Yolngu elders had been advocating for over 20 years to stop elders from having to leave country for care and inevitably pass away off country. Elders being off country also means they can't carry out their important cultural role in teaching and leading culture. And when elders pass away off country, it's an enormous impact on the spiritual and cultural continuity, as well as community cohesion. Another aspect of this project is the challenge of how it's located over 1,000 kilometers from the nearest city in Darwin by road, which most of it is dirt, and the road is cut off 46 months of the year by wet season flooding. So leaving the only access to Nhulunbuy via a 1-hour flight from Darwin or a two-day barge for materials from Darwin. So the truck you can see on the left was in fact one of our trucks going to the site. And that's how bad the road can be. And so it requires us to have a thorough grasp of logistics in our design and also project management of the project. The participatory design process for this project took more than 3 years across vast areas of Yolngu country. And now I'll hand over to David to go through that a bit more.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to give you a quick dive through the plan. There's a lot of things that are going to you're going to think are wrong and you're not used to seeing. The one thing I would say about this project is it really was, in a lot of ways, quite an experiment. It was many years of engagement and consultation with families and elders, particularly other people, but particularly those people, to define what aged care would mean for them. And it is really a compromise, as many health projects are, between the cultural and human desires and the operational and legislative requirements. And that balance, was a big step forward, but still has a long way to go, I'm sure. So the first step was, we were part of a reboot of this project, and the first step was to find a new site. The project had actually stalled because the site was not culturally appropriate. So we spent quite a lot of time looking for a site, including a banana plantation in Yirrkala, which seemed like a good idea until I got there and it was the hottest place we've been on earth. And so this was some of the places we looked at. Like with all our projects, culture, country and community are extremely important, and the delving down into these and focusing and customizing the approach to each of these for each community, and in this instance, a lot of communities, is very important. But I would say that if I was to pick one thing out of here, it is to create a place of living culture where elders can continue to practice culture, to be culture, to teach culture. Their families and their grandchildren, children can partake in that. Is extremely, extremely important aspect of this project. And so here we are, the outcome. This is the entrance. You'll see a lot of robust materials and highly unrefined detailing, which responds to what is the largest cyclone load in the country and very extreme climate, quite similar actually to Sri Lanka in many ways. So the building is made up of, as the guy said, it's 32 beds made up of 2 wings of 16. This kind of correlates with the flexible aged care staffing ratios. So there is a lot, there is a lot of this coming through in the design. The rooms are broken up into fingers, to separate those, to respond to this very strong feedback we got all the way through, which we know from our other working community, of breaking down the scale of the building down to a domestic scale of what the scale of where people actually live and where they're coming from. This may be the densest place, in Nhulunbuy may be the densest place many of these residents have ever lived or spent substantial time in. Each room is also arranged to maximize natural ventilation, natural light, all the things you would understand. But also the fanning arrangement responds to the seasonality. Yolngu people have 5 seasons. Those seasons traditionally required 5 shelters to be built throughout the year. So one of the tasks of this project was to create a multiplicity of spaces to create seasonal habitation so that people could move around the project, around the building, to enable a response to that. There's also, the fanning also is a response to reducing the travel distances. And in fact, there are no corridors in resident areas in this entire project. So you come out of the room into communal spaces, out of those communal spaces into external spaces. The buildings are connected by the walkway. And so, for obvious reasons, you'll understand. To the top, the green area is the dining room, the kitchen, and all the back of the house with the loading bay. To the bottom is the dialysis and the admin at the entry. Each wing has a purple area, which is the back of house clinical spaces for the staff, which is kind of sealed off and kind of discreet and timber clad to sort of harmonise with the future landscape as the landscaping grows. They're those communal spaces. These were deliberately left, flexible to see what would happen over time. One of the great challenges of this project is we actually did not know how this building was going to be inhabited or used. There needed to be flexibility, but there also needed to be, obviously need to be specific enough. So these spaces allow for that. As I flick through this, one of the other arrangements of the rooms was to respond to different cultural areas externally, but also to allow for different habitation within the building. Yolngu people have an incredibly sophisticated and complex marriage and bloodline process, and there was no real way of understanding and knowing how that would happen. So how it would be inhabited. So the arrangement of the rooms allows for different sorts of groupings. Between every second room there is a shared veranda with a deep place to sleep, even outside, even in all weather, even in the rainy season. And in between every other room is a garden area like this, which allows different sorts of interrelationships to happen between the different groups of rooms. I'm just going to flick through because I'm running out of time here. Now, the one strange thing it has is twin rooms. Twin rooms, which designed before COVID, we thought we would never design another twin room again. Although now we're designing triple rooms, but that's a whole other story. This is really down to the cultural requirement that comes through in all our engagement, where women really want to share rooms. Obviously, married couples want to share rooms, but women particularly want to share rooms. Most women have never spent a night sleeping in a room on their own. So that's a very, very strong thing. Men, on the other hand, this is a cultural norm across all cultures, that men get grumpy when they get old and want to be left alone. And so they want individual rooms. So these rooms are designed where even in a twin room, each resident has their own bathroom for dignity, and the rooms can be divided. And as people have moved in over the last couple of years, that customization has happened as they've self-selected how they want to arrange themselves in the facility. And there are now quite a number of single rooms, but not too many actually. The interconnecting covered walkways also proved to be quite an amazing space that naturally ventilates and protects from the heaviest rain. There was a time last year where Nhulunbuy was the rainiest place on earth with 800 millimetres in a day. So there's some challenges associated with that. Art is obviously a big part of all our work, and it's really as much about the process as it is about the outcome. So, and we'll talk about that another day as I run out of time. The building is also clad in local Darwin stringy bark, 800 logs, 24 linear kilometres, 6 months of milling, all milled by local Yolngu men, and about 20 kilometres down the road, which has been a huge way of humanising the project and connecting it to country and dealing with the quite brutal materials required to make it robust in a cyclone zone. The landscaping plan was only ever taken to this point, and from there, the Yolngu men at the Irikala nursery propagated almost all the plants from seed and that they collected on country, and they grew the plants and planted, and now they're involved in the constant maintenance of that under the guidance of the elders who guide what plants are appropriate. All right, I'm going to finish with the video, and then I look forward to your questions.
Finally, the elders have their wish, with the Yutchuwala Jawara Centre, which translates as Little Heaven, opening its doors to residents, both Yolngu and Balanda, or non-Indigenous people from the remote town.
Balanda malawang naman at namiyulong ka balanda. Wek teke jangan apurungu. Namal kalau kap jangan apurungu main makuma.
Designed by and operated with Yeng, the centre even features a traditional sorry business space for Yeng to properly bid their loved ones farewell.
So when they pass, they hear us in this country, Nuremberg, where they belong.
A little piece of heaven and harmony to spend their oldest days together.